we wanted to know from you, as the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, how did Uganda get to this level? I understand the inflation rate was 10.7 in October and 10.6 in November. Still, the outlook is not good. So how did we get to this?
Thank you so much, Sudhir. I think a number of factors have contributed to where we are today. But let's first begin with the global factors, because I can break them down into two. There are the external factors and then there are the internal factors. The global factors begin with the COVID-19 lockdown. When the economies of the world began to open, they were opening at such a time when both the aggregate supply side had also been locked down, the aggregate demand also had been locked down to some extent. But with the reopening of the economies worldwide, we saw aggregate demand begin to pick up. But it was picking up at a much faster pace than the supply side could respond. So prices began to edge upwards. Now, that was the case until sometime in December 2021 and January 2021. But then came the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which actually made the whole situation very challenging. And it was challenging in that initially, when the aggregate demand was rising faster than supply, let's take the case of oil. The investment in the oil production had kind of like come down because of the climate-related changes and what have you. There was a lot of advocacy against fossil energies, so the amount of investment going towards oil production had kind of like come down. But with the opening of the economies, the demand for oil was picking up quite fast and supply was not out. We found that in the month of March, a barrel of Brent crude oil was going at about $110, $115 a barrel. Sometimes it hit $120 a barrel. But that was not helped by the fact that, one, Russia, which is the third largest producer of crude oil and also the second biggest exporter of crude oil, came under sanctions. That the prices that were originally localized to only a few items like cooking oil, soap, and a few other food items and petrol had now begun to spread across the entire basket of the consumer goods and services, mainly contributed by the increase in fuel prices. So that's when Bank of Uganda decided to take a decisive monetary policy action in the month of June to raise the CBR from 6.5 to 7.5.
This, the high dollar rate that the country is now facing right now is as a result of the increment, especially in the prices of the crude oil.
I mean, for every 1 barrel of fuel, we were now demanding more dollars, because initially it was $65 a barrel, but now it's about $110 a barrel. So it means that we are demanding more dollars, nearly 30-something dollars per barrel on top. Also happening at the same time was the fact that we had initially experienced inflows of portfolios by some of the non-residents into our market, given the low interest rates in the advanced countries. Those portfolio flows came here to earn the higher yield which our securities were offering. But when inflation began to rise in the advanced economies, the central banks of those economies raised interest rates. And these portfolio flows now began to reverse, to go back to where they came from. And in going back, they were demanding now, dollars, because initially they had sold their dollars to get the shillings to invest in government securities. But now they were not rolling over the government securities, they were discounting the government securities, going to the foreign exchange market, demanding for dollars in order to go back to invest in what we call the safe havens. These are the advanced economies.
And in that sense, what would Bank of Uganda do to ensure that at least you arrest the situation? Do you bring in more dollars? What happens?
You see, we mainly undertook two actions. One was that we were smoothing out the rate of depreciation of the currency. So we intervened in the foreign exchange market to smooth out the sharp depreciation to slow it down a bit, because we didn't want it to depreciate so rapidly. Okay, if we had not intervened, the depreciation would have been quite fast and disorderly.
So did the move by the Ministry of Finance to not release much liquidity, especially to government ministries, was it intentional, or it was because government did not have the money? The money wasn't there.
In our discussion with the Ministry of Finance, it is because they wanted to help us quicken the impact of stabilizing the currency. And in fact, they only delayed for about 2 months. But if you look at what has happened to the releases from October now, they are scheduled. So that action to delay by a short time helped us to quickly rein in the stability in exchange rate. And once that was now attained, then they began, of course, releasing, as usual.
Do you believe that if government could only cut down or reduce its expenditure, that would help us save this economy?
You might cut expenditure, but if you're not directing into the productive areas, you're not doing anything. So I think, to me, government can still maintain the same expenditure, but direct it to the most productive areas, like they are correctly doing right now. They are focusing on the parish development model, and also they are focusing on infrastructure investment.
That was a plan, a stimulus package that the president promised, and it's something that was not effected. Do you believe it could have had an impact where the small-scale enterprises have had to choke, especially on interest rates from banks, especially those who had loans? Others have closed businesses, and yet URA wants to collect taxes. Do you believe this would have significantly changed the state of affairs?
And so government put in $100 billion, 100 billion shillings, sorry, and the participating financial institutions are expected to put in an additional 100 billion Uganda shillings. Now, how has the performance of that fund been since? The uptake has not been that significant compared to the amount that is available. I think, if my memory serves me correct, I think we have disbursed about 4 to 5 billion. I need to confirm it, but the uptake is not great.
There are some people who claim that actually the reason as to why these banks continue to charge exorbitant interest rates, it's because Bank of Uganda have not cracked a whip in a proper sense that actually they have a ceiling at which they have to stop. It's like for them, the rates have to keep going higher and higher every year. So what can Bank of Uganda do to ensure that at least the common person is not exploited by these banks, much as it is a free market economy? The
key issues that are explaining the high interest rates in Uganda have got to deal with the government appetite for borrowing. If you look at the treasury bill and the treasury bond rates, Uganda is the highest in the region. And supervised financial institutions use those yields, the government security yields, as a benchmark for pricing the loan they give to to you and me, because their first option is, okay, if I were to buy a government treasury bill or treasury bond, how much would government pay me? So if government is paying me 15% for a 1-year T-bill, for example, okay, why would I lend, if I'm a bank, why would I lend Sudir Biarhanga 10%? There's no way I'll do that. So if government can lower or can reduce its participation in the domestic financial markets in the form of borrowing, those rates will come down, isn't it?
Looking at the outlook of the economy, the fact that it's not performing well, how do you get out of this? What is Bank of Uganda doing?
Through operationalizing the National Payments Act, we are ensuring that we are able to reach all the corners of this country through mobile money, so that all these services can be provided to the bottom of the pyramid. We are beginning, and we shall get there. But I know that the issue of financial costs is a problem. Most people are complaining about the high charges, and Bank of Uganda has taken note of that. We are going to come up with a national payment switch that is going to have to facilitate interoperability of all the various networks and payment systems providers at a much lower cost, and that should be able to settle the high financial transaction costs involving the e-payments. You see, Bank of Uganda can raise the CBR and do everything, and tomorrow inflation is back to 5%. But the underlying factors, causes of this inflation, need to be addressed. And what are they? One, food crop inflation is mainly a weather-related activity. If we do not tackle the climate risk, the climate changing environment, we will again have fluctuations in the output, and therefore we will have again food crop inflation. And then two, the availability of foreign exchange in the market. All right? Because why is it that the offshore players are able to influence the exchange rate? It is because our foreign exchange market is narrow, it's thin, and therefore any small withdrawal or injection of forex by these players has an impact on the exchange rate.
You have an uphill task, especially when it comes to trying to preserve the environment, because it's the same government that preaches against environmental degradation, but the same government that continues to dole out land in wetlands and protected areas. So I don't know how Bank of Uganda is going to do the magic.
We as a central bank cannot be dealing with the wananchi out there directly. So we are going to use our supervisory and regulatory role in influencing socioeconomic transformation. We are going to institutionalize what we call environmental, social, and governance standards across the entire financial sector. It's not a one sector to do it all. So I'm telling you the role of the financial sector in that. Now, I'm also very sure that government is on the same path. The President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has, for example, been serious about people vacating wetlands.
Do you feel like you're weighed down because you're doing work as a governor, deputy governor, like you too much work, like completely overladen?
No, I don't feel weighed down at all, because there are systems in the bank. Those systems are working, and those systems have been proven in this very trying time, these economic challenges, because we have the systems, we have, first of all, the staff. The staff are amazing. The staff are really amazing. Very hard-working lot of staff. They are result-oriented. They are inspired by management. And then, of course, we have a board that oversees management. So I think we've been able to put together the existing systems, all right, with the management guidance and oversight of the board to ensure that we're delivering.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael Atingi-Ego, the Deputy Bank of Uganda Governor. Thank you for giving us or according us this time.
Thank you.